Police humiliate an elderly black woman, but what they discover about her son makes them repent immediately. At the precinct, Lieutenant Arnaldo and Officer Mendez settled into their chairs, laughing and joking, completely oblivious to the gravity of their actions. The atmosphere, which should have been marked by seriousness and responsibility, was filled with laughter echoing off the cold, worn walls of the station. Arnaldo, with his authoritarian demeanor, watched Mendez animatedly gesticulate. "Did you see the look on Donna Lucia's face when we approached her? She looked like she'd seen a ghost," Mendez said, nearly doubling over with laughter. "Yeah, that old lady thinks she can do whatever she wants just because she's lived here for decades. She doesn't understand that we're just doing our job," Arnaldo replied with a smug smile. "Job? Or is it abuse of power? Look, I'm not a fan of her, but come on, the woman was just selling her food to help the community," Mendez countered, laughter fading into a look of doubt. Arnaldo shook his head dismissively. "And who cares about that? These people need a lesson. If they're not afraid, they don't respect us. Respect comes from fear." Meanwhile, Fernando, Donna Lucia's son, watched the scene from a distance, his heart pounding with indignation. Anger grew inside him like a volcano ready to erupt. He remembered his mother's words, who always taught him about dignity and respect, even amidst adversity. "We can't let them humiliate us. We have to fight for what's right," Donna Lucia would say, with the firmness of someone who had fought many battles. He moved closer, trying to understand how those men could be so cruel, so indifferent to the pain they caused. How can they laugh at others' suffering, he thought. The memory of his mother's expression, mixed with the sadness of witnessing ongoing injustice, motivated him to act. The scene shifted to Donna Lucia, who, despite the humiliation, remained steadfast in her purpose. In her small shack, she organized the fresh ingredients she had managed to gather to prepare her famous home-cooked meals. The soft afternoon light streamed through the window, illuminating her brown, weathered face, which radiated strength and resilience. As she chopped vegetables, she murmured to herself, "Life can be tough, but I won't give up. This community needs me, and I need it." She always believed that through food, she could unite people. Donna Lucia knew that every dish she served wasn't just a meal, but a way to sustain her community and offer everyone a bit of dignity. "If I don't do my part, who will?" she reflected, her gaze firm and determined. As the daylight faded, she paused for a moment to look out the window, watching the children play and neighbors converse. A smile blossomed on her lips. Hope is here, even if things seem bleak, she thought, recalling her son's words. One day, they will see. One day, everything will change. And so, while the police laughed at the expense of others' pain, Donna Lucia prepared to be the force that would unite the community, unaware that her resilience would become the catalyst for a much larger transformation. The connection between them, though invisible in that moment, was about to be tested in ways they could not even imagine. Fernando positioned himself in front of the precinct, where the atmosphere was tense. Police officers, some with indifferent expressions, watched the commotion of the community outside. He took a deep breath, feeling anger surge through his veins as he thought about the humiliation his mother, Donna Lucia, had suffered. It was time to act. "Do you think you can keep doing this with no consequences?" Fernando shouted, his voice firm and clear. The murmuring of the crowd around him intensified, and he saw some familiar faces nodding in support. "We will no longer accept this kind of treatment." Arnaldo and Mendez, leaning against the wall of the precinct, exchanged glances. Arnaldo, ever the arrogant one, rolled his eyes. "Look at him, Mendez. A kid thinking he has the right to teach us how to do our job," he said, laughing sarcastically. Mendez, however, felt a weight on his conscience. He remembered Donna Lucia's sad eyes, the dignity she always showed, even in the worst situations. Hesitating, he replied, "Maybe we should listen to what he has to say, Arnaldo. People are tired and have reasons to complain." "Tired? And who cares about that? What do they know about community safety?" Arnaldo retorted, but doubt began to sprout in his mind. Mendez, on the other hand, was already feeling different. He no longer wanted to be part of the problem. Fernando approached, unafraid of the police, and stared directly at Arnaldo. "If you really cared about the community, you would have acted differently. Instead of humiliating people, you should be helping," he said. The crowd began to murmur, and the tension mounted. "Look at that. The kid is angry," Arnaldo mocked, but his tone was not as dismissive as before. Fernando's words struck him in some way. He crossed his arms, trying to maintain composure, but Mendes's voice interjected. "He's right, Arnaldo. We need to rethink our actions and how they affect people. We can't keep behaving this way," Mendes said, looking at Fernando with an expression of empathy. In that moment, Fernando felt he had an ally. "If you join us, we can do something bigger. We can work together to change the image of the police in the community. We can build something that truly helps people." Arnaldo, filled with a mix of anger and confusion, turned to Mendes. "Are you serious? You want to get involved with them? That makes no sense." "It makes perfect sense, Arnaldo. If we don't change now, when will we? We can't keep ignoring the problems and expect them to go away," Mendes insisted, his voice more resolute than before. The debate between the two officers began to attract more attention. Some residents moved closer, listening intently. Fernando, sensing the opportunity, continued. "The community needs you, not as the police who humiliate, but as all. If you engage in community projects, it could change everything." "And how do you suggest we do that?" Arnaldo asked, his expression still skeptical, but his tone slightly less aggressive. "We could start with a revitalization project for the community center. We need help organizing it to bring people together. If you truly want to change, that's the first step," Fernando replied, hopeful. The conversation continued, and as it did, the crowd around them began to stir. Mendes looked at Arnaldo. "If we're going to do this, we need to commit for real," he said, and Arnaldo, reluctant, nodded affirmatively. "All right, let's hear what you have to say, kid. But don't think this will be easy," Arnaldo concluded, and for a brief moment, a thread of hope passed between them. The possibility of change began to take shape, even though both police officers still carried the weight of their preconceived notions. Their internal battle was just beginning. Fernando was excited about the upcoming meeting. He had spent the last few weeks organizing a proposal to revitalize the community center, and finally, he would have the chance to present it. With a notepad in hand, he reviewed his notes, each word reflecting his desire to promote concrete changes in his community. The voices around him were filled with hope and determination as the residents prepared to hear his ideas. Before we continue with this exciting story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories, and let us know which city you're watching this video from in the comments. However, the atmosphere shifted when Arnaldo, the lieutenant who had always treated him with disdain, entered the room. The presence of the officer, who was there on orders from his superior, caused a murmur among those present. Fernando felt a knot in his throat, but he took a deep breath and decided not to let oppression silence him. The meeting began with Fernando's presentation. He stood up, looked at the audience, and started to speak. "Good evening, everyone. Today I'm here to present an idea that could transform our community center into a space for learning and growth. We need a library that houses knowledge and serves as a refuge for our children and youth." The looks on the community members' faces lit up with the proposal. Fernando continued, "Imagine a place where young people can study, where children can have fun and learn at the same time. A space that not only brings books, but also offers workshops, lectures, and cultural events." Arnaldo, sitting in a corner, listened with disinterest, but something inside him began to stir. He wasn't there by choice, but Fernando's determination intrigued him. When Fernando mentioned the importance of education and culture, a memory from his own childhood hit him like a lightning bolt. He remembered spending hours in the public library, dreaming of a better future. That memory made him feel a slight discomfort in his seat. The meeting continued with interventions from other community members who supported the idea. "We need this," said Maria, a single mother who often struggled to keep her children motivated. "Our kids need opportunities. The library could be the first step toward a better future." Arnaldo, who had been aloof until then, began to pay attention. He observed the passion in Maria's eyes and realized that the community needed support, not just control. When it was his turn to speak, he stood up, hesitating for a moment. The words that came out of his mouth were unexpected. I would like to support Fernando's proposal," he said, his voice slightly trembling. "I believe education is fundamental, and maybe we can join forces to help the community grow." The murmurs in the room became more intense. Fernando looked surprised at the police officer. "Are you serious, Lieutenant?" Arnaldo took a deep breath, as though shedding a weight. "Yes, I am. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to help plan the library. We need to do something that benefits everyone, not just a few." Fernando's expression lit up. "That would be amazing. We can work together and listen to everyone's ideas. Together we can make a difference." Meanwhile, Mendes, who was in a parallel meeting, also began to rethink his attitudes. He remembered Tiago, a young man from the community who had dropped out of school. The idea of getting involved in something meaningful attracted him more and more. He knew that if he could help Tiago find his way again, it would be a step toward redeeming his own life. Mendes walked through the neighborhood with a mix of anxiety and determination. He knew he needed to do something different, not just to redeem himself for past actions, but also to try to change someone's life trajectory. In the distance, he spotted Tiago, a young man with a lost look and worn clothes sitting on a bench with his headphones isolating him from the world. "Hey, Tiago," Mendes called out as he approached. The boy looked up, surprised to see the officer. "Can I sit down?" "If you want," Tiago replied with a tone of indifference. Mendes noticed that the young man wasn't very comfortable, but decided to continue. "I've been thinking about you. I don't know if you remember me, but I'm Officer Mendes. I was at your school that day, the day you left, feeling very disappointed." Tiago made a disdainful expression. "Everyone knows the police don't care. What do you want here?" The officer took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Look, I know that my colleagues and I have a lot to improve, but I'm here because I want to help, truly. And you have potential, Tiago. What do you think about going back to school?" "School? Why bother?" The young man crossed his arms defiantly. "No one in my family has graduated, and I don't see the point in continuing at a school that doesn't care about us." "I understand your frustration," Mendes said, trying to connect. "But sometimes it's just a matter of perspective. When I was younger, I faced difficulties too, and look where I am now. You can be different. You can be someone who changes this reality." Tiago looked at Mendes with suspicion, but the sincerity of the officer seemed to awaken something in him. "What do you know about my life?" "I know you like photography," Mendes replied with a smile. "And what if I told you we could work on that together? You know, I have some ideas. We can hold an exhibition, something that showcases the beauty of our neighborhood, the strength of our community." Tiago's face lit up for a brief moment. "You would really do that?" "Of course. We can seek support, gather people, create something that makes everyone feel proud. Life is more than just surviving, Tiago. It's about leaving a legacy." The young man hesitated, but the idea seemed to plant a seed of hope in his heart. "What if I can't? What if my work doesn't matter? If you don't try, you'll never know. And remember, I'll be here to support you. You're not alone in this." Mendes smiled, and for the first time Tiago seemed to relax. Meanwhile, Arnaldo was deep in his own thoughts. He had decided to help Maria organize the community library. When he arrived at her house, he found her surrounded by books and papers, her expression one of determination. "Hi, Maria. Can I help?" Arnaldo asked, a bit embarrassed. "Of course, Lieutenant. You can help me catalog these books. Each one of them has a special meaning for the community." Maria smiled, but Arnaldo noticed the exhaustion on her face. "I admire what you're doing. The library isn't just a space. It's a refuge for many," he said, beginning to organize the books. "Thank you, Arnaldo. You know, I've always believed that education is the key to change. If we can provide that opportunity for the kids, we'll be doing something great." Arnaldo reflected on her words. He had spent so much time focusing on rules and order that he had forgotten the power education and knowledge can hold. "You're right. I never thought of it that way. It's easy to lose perspective when we're so caught up in our roles," Maria said without looking at him, focused on the task. "But it's essential to remember that behind every number, every statistic, there are lives. People deserve our attention and respect." "I want to change that, Maria. I want to be part of that change," Arnaldo replied with a conviction growing inside him. As they organized the books, he felt a new hope blossom in his heart, a genuine desire to make a difference. In that moment, both were seeking redemption, and even though the road ahead seemed long and full of challenges, the desire to transform their lives and the lives of others united them in a greater purpose. Donna Lucia was excited about the idea of the food fair. The community, once marked by distrust and indifference, was beginning to unite around the revitalization of the community center. With her tireless spirit, she organized a meeting in the small room of the center, where residents gathered to discuss the event's details. The smell of fresh bread and ripe fruits filled the air, creating a sense of warmth. "Everyone, this fair is going to be a success," exclaimed Donna Lucia, her smile radiant. "Let's show that together we are stronger. Each of you can bring something. Sweets, snacks, fruits, or whatever you can." Fernando, sitting next to his mother, felt her enthusiasm contagious. And we could also do a cultural presentation, show the talents of our community during the fair, music, dance, theatre. What do you all think? The proposal was met with applause and cheers of approval. Among those present, Tiago, the young man Mendes had tried to motivate to return to school, timidly raised his hand. I can help organize the music part. I have some friends who play guitar and percussion. Great, Tiago. Let's do this together, Fernando replied, encouraging the young man. Music brings joy and unity, and we need that at our fair. As the conversation continued, Arnaldo and Mendes observed from a distance. Although they still felt out of place in that environment, something within them began to shift. Mendes, who had always been more sensitive to community issues, said to Arnaldo, "Look at how they're coming together. This is powerful." Arnaldo, arms crossed, wore a skeptical expression. "It may be, but it's just a fair. They won't change their reality with one event." Mendes shook his head. "Maybe you're not seeing what I see. This fair is a symbol. People are feeling valued, and that could be the start of something bigger." As the date of the fair approached, the two police officers decided to get more actively involved. They helped Donna Lucia organize the booths and logistics for the event. Initially hesitant, the community began to accept the presence of the police. Distrust was gradually replaced by curiosity and hope. On the day of the fair, the community center was decorated with colorful bunting and tables laden with delicious dishes. Music echoed through the air, and the atmosphere was one of celebration. Arnaldo and Mendes wore their police shirts, but instead of feeling like intruders, they felt a sense of pride in contributing to something positive. Donna Lucia, with a flour-stained apron, approached Mendes while he was helping organize the food. "Officer Mendes, you're doing a great job. You know, I've always believed that people can change if given the opportunity." Mendes smiled, touched by her words. "I'm just trying to do the right thing, Donna Lucia. And the truth is I'm learning a lot from the community. You all have incredible strength." Meanwhile, Arnaldo was in line to buy some delicious treats made by community members. He watched as a small child, beaming with joy, held up a sweet treat they had just bought. The child's expression of happiness made him reflect on the little things that truly mattered. When the fair began, people gathered around the booths. Music started playing and laughter echoed. Arnaldo and Mendes, now more integrated, helped serve food, and with every smile they received, they felt they were, in some way, making a difference. "Look at this, Arnaldo," Mendes said, while serving a plate of pastries to an elderly lady. "People are happy, this is worth it." "Yeah, maybe I underestimated the power of an event like this," Arnaldo replied, watching the residents interact, momentarily forgetting the tensions and distrust of the past. The fair was a resounding success, surpassing everyone's expectations. Donna Lucia and Fernando were beaming, and the community began to see the police in a different light. Although there were still internal prejudices to confront, that day marked a turning point. It was proof that even amidst so many difficulties, it was possible to build bridges and transform reality through collaboration and mutual respect. Arnaldo sat in one of the chairs in the auditorium at the police station, his gaze lost among the notes he wasn't taking. The training event felt like a chore, one of those meetings where superiors tried to impose a new vision for the police, but most of the time it ended up being filled with empty speeches. He looked around and saw the familiar faces of his colleagues. Many of them still wore expressions of disdain when it came to the community they were supposed to protect. The atmosphere was thick with prejudice and resistance to change. "Look at them, Arnaldo," said one of his colleagues, Sergeant Ferreira, with a sarcastic smile. "They think they're going to change the world with community projects. Pathetic." Arnaldo didn't respond, but his mind was elsewhere. He recalled the fair organized by Donna Lucia and how the community had responded to the efforts of himself and Mendes. A feeling of discomfort began to stir within him. What his colleagues were saying didn't align with what he had experienced. He saw the impact that small actions could have on people's lives. During the lecture, a public safety expert presented data on the relationship between the police and the community. Arnaldo listened, but his mind wandered. He thought about Tiago, the young man Mendes was trying to help, and the life stories he had heard at the community meeting. With an involuntary gesture, he stood up, and as he noticed all eyes turning toward him, he hesitated for a moment. "Excuse me, can I say something?" Arnaldo asked, his voice initially trembling but gaining strength as he continued. "I know many of us have a distorted view of what we do, but we need to understand that we are not just authorities. We are part of the community." The murmurs that spread through the room were palpable. Ferreira rolled his eyes, but other officers seemed intrigued. Arnaldo took a deep breath, determined to continue. Recently, I participated in a community project and saw how small actions can change lives. The community is not just a place where we work. They are people, families who need our help and, more importantly, our respect. And you think that's going to change anything? They will always see us as oppressors, Ferreira interjected, the tone of mockery in his voice. If we don't change first, how can they change the way they see us? Arnaldo replied, his voice now steadier. What I saw at the fair, the way Donna Lucia and the others came together, was inspiring. This must mean something to us. If we continue to act as we always have, we will perpetuate that negative view. As Arnaldo spoke, Mendez, who sat further back, watched the scene intently. It was the first time he had seen Arnaldo stand up for something so important. Mendez's hesitation transformed into a desire to act. He remembered his conversation with Tiago and the potential the young man had. The idea of becoming a mentor for Tiago began to take shape in his mind. After the lecture, as everyone began to disperse, Mendez approached Arnaldo. "Do you really believe in what you said?" he asked, curiosity evident in his eyes. "Yes, Mendez. I think we need to be better. Not just as police officers, but as human beings," Arnaldo replied, his face still carrying the intensity of the emotion he had felt while speaking. "And you? What do you think about getting more involved with the community? You can make a difference in someone's life." Mendez hesitated, but the image of Tiago and his frustrations still echoed in his mind. "I'm thinking about helping a kid from the community. He stopped studying, and I want to motivate him to go back. It could be a good start, right?" "Definitely. You have a lot to offer," Arnaldo encouraged, a smile spreading across his face. "Change begins with one step, and I'm here to support you, just as you're supporting me now." The atmosphere around them seemed lighter, as if the heavy air of prejudice was beginning to dissipate. They both knew there was still much to be done, but that conversation was a significant step toward a new reality, where empathy and understanding could finally prevail over prejudice. Fernando and Donna Lucia sat on a wooden bench in the community center's square, which was starting to come alive with the vibrant colors of the murals being painted by the community. The sunlight reflected off the joyful faces of the children playing around, but there was a shadow of concern in Fernando's eyes. He had witnessed the transformation happening, but he still struggled with the need for revenge that simmered within him. "Donna Lucia, I can't help but think about the humiliation you suffered," he began, his voice trembling with emotion. "Those police officers, they have no idea what they caused, and I feel like there needs to be justice." Donna Lucia, with her gentle smile and wise eyes, looked at Fernando, weighing his words. "My son, true justice doesn't come from revenge. Revenge fuels a cycle of pain and hatred. What we need is change, understanding, and that starts with forgiveness." "Forgiveness," Fernando repeated, shaking his head in disbelief. "How can I forgive those who hurt me and hurt you? They need to pay for what they did." She sighed, recalling the countless times she had to rise after falling. "Look around you, Fernando. See what we are building together. This community, these children, they deserve a better future. If you let yourself be consumed by hate, you will lose the chance to be part of that change." He frowned, wrestling with his conflicting feelings. But what if they don't change? What if all of this is in vain? "It won't be in vain," Donna Lucia assured him, taking the young man's hand between hers. "What you do now, how you feel, that's what shapes your future and ours. Remember your mother's words. Dignity lies in our actions, not in our reactions." As they talked, Arnaldo observed from a distance, hidden behind one of the colorful murals. He had come there to see what was happening, but now he felt like an intruder, listening to the profound conversation between Fernando and Donna Lucia. He had no idea how he felt about all of this. Part of him was still stuck in anger and distrust, but another part was starting to question his own beliefs. "Why do you care so much about this community?" Fernando asked, his eyes fixed on Donna Lucia's face. "They have nothing to offer to police officers like us." "And do you think being a police officer is just about the uniform and the gun?" Donna Lucia replied, her voice firm. "It's about serving, protecting, and above all, understanding. These young people are our future, and if we don't take care of them, we will be failing our mission." Translation. Arnaldo involuntarily stepped a little closer, intrigued. He had never heard anyone speak about a police officer's role in this way. His beliefs were being challenged, leaving him uncomfortable yet curious. I never thought about it like that, Fernando murmured, looking down at the ground. I always saw the community as a problem, a source of conflict. What if you looked at it as an opportunity? Donna Lucia suggested, her voice soft yet powerful. A place where you can make a difference. Think of Tiago, Maria, and everyone who is struggling to rise up. They need you, and you need them. Arnaldo took a step forward, unable to contain his curiosity any longer. What you're saying makes sense, he admitted, his voice hesitant. I've spent too long thinking I was just a cop, but maybe I can be more than that. Fernando turned to Arnaldo, surprised. Are you serious? Yes, he replied, feeling vulnerable yet determined. Maybe I've lost sight of what really matters. Helping people, not just locking them up. Donna Lucia smiled, witnessing the transformation in both young men. That's what I wanted to hear. Change starts with each of us. If you unite and work together, you can achieve much more than any of us could do alone. The conversation flowed, and the three began discussing ideas and plans for the community. Fernando started to see Arnaldo not as a rival, but as an ally. Hope and empathy began to replace the desire for revenge, creating a new dynamic that could finally lead to the real change they both sought. The inauguration party for the community center was approaching, and the atmosphere in the neighborhood was charged with anticipation. The streets were adorned with colorful bunting and posters, announcing the new space as a symbol of hope and renewal. Arnaldo and Mendez, now more integrated into the community, were tasked with helping organize the event. The sun began to set, painting the sky a vibrant orange and pink, as the two officers wearing fabric aprons arranged tables and chairs in the square in front of the center. Do you think they will really forgive us? Mendez asked, tying a ribbon around a table. Insecurity still lingered despite the progress they had made. If we don't try, we'll never know, Arnaldo replied, looking at the smiling faces of children playing nearby. What we did in the past was wrong, but this is a chance to show we've changed. We need to be honest with them. Mendez nodded, still hesitant but excited about the idea of making a difference. He remembered Tiago, the young man he was trying to help find his way back to education, and that motivated him to push forward. What if Donna Lucia doesn't accept us? That day was terrible. She's strong, Mendez. If she can overcome what we've been through, we can try to redeem ourselves. We have to be sincere, Arnaldo said, his confidence growing. The truth was, he too feared her reaction, but he knew it was the only way to move forward. With preparations nearly complete, community members began to arrive, bringing traditional dishes and drinks to share. The smell of home-cooked food filled the air, creating a sense of warmth. Donna Lucia, with a radiant smile, approached Arnaldo and Mendez. You're doing a fantastic job. I'm so proud to see what this place has become, she praised, her voice overflowing with joy. The scars of the past seemed to be healing, and she was living proof that hope could blossom even amidst adversity. Thank you, Donna Lucia. We know we don't deserve your forgiveness, but we're here to do what's necessary, Mendez said, sincerity shining in his eyes. Everyone deserves a second chance, my son. What matters is not repeating the mistakes, Donna Lucia replied, gentle yet firm. Now we need to celebrate. The night of the party arrived, and the square was filled with people. Laughter and dancing filled the air as stories were shared, creating a vibrant atmosphere. When the music began to play, Arnaldo and Mendez positioned themselves next to Donna Lucia, watching the community's excitement. Look how happy they are, Arnaldo remarked, his heart feeling light. That's what matters. Yes, it's as if everything is coming together, Mendez agreed. I never thought we would be part of this. Donna Lucia approached them, her eyes sparkling, and said, You're part of our family now. What happened in the past doesn't define who you are today. Let's focus on the future. The party continued to gain momentum, and amidst the music, Arnaldo and Mendez prepared to make their public apologies. The moment to expose themselves was drawing near, and anxiety began to build inside them. Both knew they needed to be honest and transparent. Are you ready? Mendez asked, looking at Arnaldo. Ready or not, we have to do this, Arnaldo replied, taking a deep breath. He felt the pressure but also the determination to do what was right. As they approached the microphone, the community watched them in silence. Arnaldo felt Mendez's hand squeeze his, a silent sign of support. With a gesture of gratitude, he turned to the crowd and with a steady voice began to speak. We're here today not just to celebrate but also to apologize. What we did in the past was unacceptable, and we recognize the pain we caused. But we are here, committed to change and to building a better future together with you. The crowd listened attentively, and the weight of Arnaldo's words hung in the air. Mendes, feeling the significance of the moment, joined him, adding, "We believe change is possible, and we want you to know we're ready to fight for this community, to stand by you in building something greater." Arnaldo and Mendes's words echoed through the square, and for a moment, insecurity gave way to hope. The party continued, vibrating with the spirit of renewal, as everyone eagerly awaited what the future would hold. The inauguration party for the community center had finally arrived. The atmosphere was one of celebration and hope, with lights strung up illuminating the space, which had once been just a storehouse of bad memories, now transformed into a place of unity. The community gathered around the new library and event space, a testament to the collective strength and determination of all. Arnaldo felt nervous as he watched the crowd gather. He had never imagined it would be possible to create something so meaningful, but there were Donna Lucia and Maria, preparing to speak. The lieutenant felt a wave of emotion at the sight of them. "Who would have thought we could do this?" Mendes commented beside him. "I myself didn't believe it until recently. Look how the community has mobilized." "It's true," Arnaldo replied, nodding, "but I still have a lot to learn. These moments make me realize how blind I was before." He looked at Mendes, who wore a genuine smile, almost like an excited kid. "Do you remember what I told you about the importance of showing them that we're here to help, not to oppress?" "Yes," Mendes said, his eyes shining. "And I want to do that in the best way possible. What they need is someone who believes in them." The party began, and music echoed, filling the air with joy. When Donna Lucia took the stage, the crowd fell silent. Her presence was powerful and everyone respected her. With a warm smile, she began to speak. "Today, we celebrate not only the opening of this center, but the unity of our community. This space belongs to all of us, and together we can build a better future." Applause resonated throughout the room, and Arnaldo felt his heart swell. He had never seen Donna Lucia so happy, and that motivated him even more. When Maria grabbed the microphone, he noticed the intensity in her eyes. "This center is a symbol of resistance," she began. "A place where our dreams can blossom, where our voices can be heard. We must not forget that respect and empathy are the foundation of everything. For too long we have been silenced, but today we are here to shout and show our worth." Maria's words resonated in Arnaldo's heart, reminding him of the times he had silenced voices like hers. "I need to do more," he thought, as the crowd applauded enthusiastically. After her speech, Mendes stepped onto the stage, and with a determined look, he said, "Today, I want to introduce you to some young talents from our community. They have so much to offer, and it's time to let them shine." He gestured with his hand, and a group of young people began to gather around him. Arnaldo watched with pride as Mendes introduced each of them, highlighting their skills and passions. "This is Tiago, a future photographer. He has a unique eye and knows how to capture beauty in the little things. And here's Anna, who draws like no one else. Get ready to be amazed." The young people began to present, and Arnaldo noticed the energy in the air. People were excited, applauding and encouraging the youth to express themselves. He had never seen his community so united, and a wave of hope washed over him. "Look at that, they're having fun," Mendes said, glancing at the audience. "That's what I want to see." "Yes, it's incredible," Arnaldo agreed, his eyes shining. "We're making a difference. This is just the beginning." However, as the celebration continued, a shadow loomed. Arnaldo couldn't shake the feeling that, despite the joy of the moment, challenges lay ahead. He took a deep breath, recalling the journey he had traveled. The transformation of himself and Mendes was just part of a larger struggle for the dignity and respect that the community deserved. As the young people continued their performances, the atmosphere vibrated with optimism. Arnaldo and Mendes exchanged a knowing look, both aware that they were ready to face any obstacles that might arise. They had become more than just police officers. They were becoming true allies of the community. The inauguration party for the community center was at its peak. The lights shone brightly, and the sounds of laughter and music mixed with the aroma of traditional foods spread across the stalls. Arnaldo and Mendes watched the joy of the community with a mix of pride and nervousness. They had redeemed themselves, but the shadow of their past actions still lingered. However, what should have been a moment of celebration would soon turn into a battleground. Suddenly, a group of uniformed police officers exuding arrogance emerged in the middle of the party. Arnaldo furrowed his brow as he recognized some faces that had always been involved in corrupt practices. Mendes, by his side, sensed the rising tension, like a string about to snap. "Look at this, the party of losers," sneered one of the officers, a burly man named Rocha, known for using his badge to intimidate citizens. "What are you doing here? Do you think you can change anything?" Arnaldo felt his heart race. Rocha's words hit him like a punch to the gut. He looked at Mendes, who was clenching his fists, anger visible on his face. The community, which had been united in celebration, was now becoming a battlefield for respect and dignity. "We're here to celebrate the unity of the community and the transformation we're promoting," Arnaldo replied, his voice steady, though his body trembled. "You have no place here, Rocha. What you do is an affront to everything we're building." Rocha let out a cruel laugh. "And who's going to stop us? You two? You have no power here. You're just clowns trying to win the goodwill of the people." Mendes, who had been silent until now, decided to step up. "We're not clowns, Rocha. We're here to make a difference, and if you don't understand that, it's because you're trapped in your own ignorance." The tension in the air was palpable. People began to gather, watching the scene with concern. Arnaldo felt the need to act. He stepped closer, locking eyes with Rocha. "If you have something to say it in front of everyone. The community deserves to know who you really are." At that moment, Mendes found his courage and joined his friend. "And not only that, we know about your corrupt practices. We know you extort residents, that you use your uniforms to intimidate and steal. It's time to expose the truth." The group of officers looked at them, surprised. Arnaldo continued, his voice echoing with determination. "You don't represent the police I want to be. The real police protect and serve the community, not oppress it." Rocha, now irritated, tried to assert himself. "And who's going to believe you? You're just two officers who think they're the good guys. No one will listen to what you have to say." The community, however, was beginning to stir. Mothers, children, the elderly and young people started murmuring among themselves. Arnaldo and Mendes's courage was inspiring confidence. "We believe in them!" shouted a woman from the crowd, her voice echoing. "They've changed! They're trying to help us!" The situation began to shift. The pressure mounted on the corrupt officers, who realized that the party was not just a celebration, but a declaration. The supportive words from the community echoed and grew into a roar. Arnaldo seized the opportunity. "If you think you can continue to act with impunity, you are very mistaken. We will call the police and expose your actions. Justice will be served." He turned to Mendes, who continued to encourage the community to unite. "Mendes, make the call." With the phone in hand, Mendes quickly dialed. "It's time to put an end to this," he said, as Arnaldo's gaze met Rocha's, filled with determination. Minutes later, sirens sounded in the distance, and the pressure on the corrupt group intensified. "You're finished," Mendes said, looking directly at Rocha. "The community has risen up against you." When the police cars arrived, the scene marked a new beginning. Arnaldo and Mendes became the voices of change, while the corrupt officers were handcuffed and taken away. The crowd cheered, and a sense of triumph filled the air. What started as an inauguration party transformed into a milestone of hope and redemption. "This is just the beginning," Arnaldo whispered to Mendes as they watched the community rally around them. "We are making a difference." And that night, everyone discovered that true security comes from trust and mutual respect. We've reached the end of this moving story. If you enjoyed it and want to see more tales like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Right now, there's a playlist of videos on your screen. If you want to continue watching these heartwarming stories, just click on it and you'll be all set. And now tell us in the comments which city you're watching from and leave a like to support our work. Here's a sincere question. Do you agree with what happened in the story? We want to know your opinion. Until the next video.